Over the last decade, I reviewed more than 1,000 blood tests. Different ages, different careers, different symptoms. Some wanted to lose weight, some couldn't concentrate, some were exhausted, and some had gut issues. And many were incredibly successful on paper. But privately, they told me they were operating at about 60% of what they knew they were capable of. And after looking at over 1,000 blood tests, I realized something. It wasn't that everybody had 1,000 different problems, it was that almost everyone had the same handful of bottlenecks. And today, I want to explain to you what they are. Now, I've spent over a decade now helping people improve their health and their performance by looking beyond whether their blood tests are simply normal. Because my job isn't to help people avoid disease, it's to help them perform as close as possible to their potential. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions I see when it comes to interpreting blood tests and looking at people's health is that normal means optimal. It doesn't. Normal simply means normal. Think of it like this, right? You go to the mechanic and you know something's wrong with your car. Maybe it's not accelerating properly, it's making a weird noise in the engine, it shakes when you get up to a certain speed, and it's just not performing well. So you take it to the mechanic, they have a look at it, and they tell you, all good mate, everything's normal, off you go. Now, you know that something's wrong with the car, you know it's not normal, and you would obviously push back or take it to get a second opinion. But it's different when it comes to your health and to your blood tests. You walk into the doctor's office, you know things are wrong. You know your energy's through the floor. You know you can't concentrate. You know you've got crazy brain fog. Yet you're told everything's normal, and you just accept this. But what you need to understand is there's a spectrum. On one side, we have sick and disease. On the other side, we have optimal health. And in the middle, we've got what I call fake health. And unfortunately, this is where most people live, and honestly, probably where you're sitting right now. Now, understand that most doctors move people away from being sick and diseased, but I help to move people towards peak performance. And the main way I do this, it differs from what your doctor does, is I look at things through a much tighter range on your blood tests. And the range I'm looking at is looking at the lens of optimal health. What are the numbers that I need to see to ensure that you're achieving optimal health, rather than what are the numbers I need to see just to make sure you're not sick or seriously diseased. And then on top of that, we thoroughly look at your symptoms to make sure we're looking at both the objective data, which comes from your blood tests, but also the subjective data, which comes from your symptoms and all the things that you feel are wrong with you. Now, once I understood this, it really allowed me to start uncovering people's problems, even if they were told that everything was normal and nothing was wrong. And the funny thing was, I expected to find hundreds of different problems and everyone presenting in a different way. But what I found was I kept finding the same 5 performance bottlenecks. Now, the first bottleneck that I see time and time again is poor energy production. And when we're looking at your blood tests and we're looking at your symptoms, the things we're looking at is your iron status, your B12 status, the function of your red blood cells. When we look at symptoms and lifestyle, we're looking at things like your nutrition, your sleep quality, most importantly, the way that your blood sugar is responding. Are you getting crashes throughout the day? Are you getting cravings throughout the day? And these are the areas that are usually out in the blood tests and the symptom logs of most of the high performers that I look at. Now, think of it like this. When people think of energy, they usually just think, okay, I'm feeling a bit crap, I haven't got energy for the day. But what it really means is if your body and your brain haven't got the energy they need, this affects how you're showing up in meetings, how you're showing up for your staff, your focus, your quality of work, and even your training and exercise outside of work. Now, moving on to bottleneck 2, which I sort of touched on with the energy section, and that is your blood sugar. And here we're looking specifically at on your blood panels, your fasting blood glucose, your HbA1c, and your fasting insulin. And then in terms of symptoms, we're looking at, are you getting cravings? Are you getting energy dumps? Are you getting that classic 2 p.m. mid-arvo energy crash? And this is so important because as a high performer, if you're checking out every afternoon at around 2 p.m. and from that point onwards, your work quality drops, then you're simply not getting enough done and you're not getting it done at the quality that you need. This means your productivity is dropping. This means your decision making is dropping. And again, this means how you're showing up for the people that rely on you and the people around you is compromised. Now, bottleneck 3 is inflammation. And I don't mean just inflammation in terms of, scary inflammation or buzzword inflammation. I mean consistent low-grade inflammation that's always present in your body. Now, the issue when you have low-grade inflammation that's constantly there is you're going to have energy and resources in your body being diverted to that inflammation away from areas that it should be going to, like your brain and like your focus. Think of it like this, right? Imagine your marketing team is having to put out fires for the sales team for most of the day, so they're not actually doing the marketing they're supposed to be doing. Those resources are being diverted to where they shouldn't be, and other areas are suffering for it. Now, when you have this low-grade chronic inflammation, your recovery is impacted, your thinking is impacted, your productivity is impacted, and your training and exercise is impacted. And so is your mood. And again, this has such a massive impact on how you're showing up. Now, number 4 is digestive dysfunction. And I don't mean wishy-washy gut health. I mean specifically that you can eat all you want and you can eat the right foods, but if you're not digesting and absorbing properly, then it's like putting premium fuel into your car, but then you've got a leak in your fuel line. You're still gonna be running on empty despite the quality of fuel that you're putting in. And if you're in this compromised state where there's not enough fuel coming in, you're missing out on key nutrients, then it's just gonna make everything harder. Now, the way that we approach fixing your gut health and digestive function is firstly with our top-down approach, making sure that each key stage of digestion from the top to the bottom is functioning the way they're supposed to. And then with their inside out method, which gets nitty gritty and looks at the specific dysfunctions that you're dealing with and fixes them. And finally, bottleneck 5 is stress and recovery. And this is sometimes one of the hardest ones to fix because a lot of high performers are in the mindset that admitting you have high stress and admitting you need to manage your recovery better is a sign of weakness. And they're so bought into the hustle and grind culture that it makes them put aside their stress and not pay attention to the impacts that it has on the body. This is why when I look at stress, I love to use the subjective measures, of course, in terms of how you're feeling and functioning. But what I also love for high performers is actually having some objective measures, some numbers there. Because what often happens is subjectively, they'll think they're fine. But if you look at the objective numbers, the resting heart rate, the HRV, the blood pressure, it'll tell you in no uncertain terms whether or not you are stressed. And the funny thing is, when you finally acknowledge that your stress is an issue and you need to manage it better, when you start doing so, everything improves, you avoid the burnout, and long term, you get more done at a higher quality with more productivity than if you just continue to hustle and grind and eventually push yourself over the edge. Now, if you're sitting there thinking that this sounds exactly like you, I've built a health decoder that'll tell you exactly what your bottlenecks are that are holding you back from your peak performance. It's completely free and it's linked below. All right, time to get back to the blood test because this next part is one of the biggest surprises I uncovered. Now, the biggest surprise to me wasn't how many people came to me with abnormal blood tests. It was the amount of people that came to me with normal blood tests who'd been told everything was fine, but when you looked at things properly and put everything together, they had obvious signs of physiological bottlenecks. And what concerned me the most about this and shocked me the most about this was the sheer amount of people who'd been told everything was fine, yet had been operating with these bottlenecks holding them back for long periods of time. And this made me realize how important it was to look at things through the lens of getting my clients to their peak performance rather than just looking at it the perspective of just making sure they're not sick. Because context always beats individual numbers. Now, from this realization, I created a framework that's helped hundreds of high performers reach their full potential. Identify, understand, remove the bottlenecks, and perform. We identify what's going on through symptoms and blood tests. We understand and look at the main drivers of their problems rather than just playing whack-a-mole with random symptoms. And we then remove the bottlenecks with nutrition, supplementation, exercise, and lifestyle changes, making sure that what we do, of course, fits in with the busy lifestyle of our CEOs, of our entrepreneurs, and of our business owners that we coach, rather than them making fit into a plan that just doesn't work for them. And once we've done all this, we finally have them performing at 100% at their full potential. Now, the thing is this, I don't actually think that people are lazy or unmotivated or just feeling the effects of getting older. I think they're just trying to perform with physiological handbrakes they don't even know exist. Because performance isn't something that you unlock through hustle and grind alone. It's what naturally happens when you finally stop asking your body to fight against bottlenecks every single day. Remove the bottlenecks and your body starts working with you rather than against you. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe because every week I'm going to be sharing another video that goes deep into one of the 5 bottlenecks and how it's robbing you of your energy, performance, and focus. And if you want to start identifying your own bottlenecks, complete our health decoder in the description below.